The Black Panther Party, founded in Oakland, California in 1966, espoused armed self-defense and soon became the boldest and most visible Black Power organization of the late 60s. The Panthers' militancy and pro-Third World Marxist rhetoric strongly influenced some white members of SDS. The emerging alliance between SDS and the Panthers posed a potent threat to the social and political status quo, and J. Edgar Hoover's FBI stepped up its efforts to destroy both organizations and many others in the movement. By June 1969, crippled by factionalism between Marxist and Maoist ideologues, SDS imploded, and a small group of militant radicals calling themselves the Weathermen took over. Mark Rudd, Columbia student, SDS leader. I was this middle-class Jewish kid from Maplewood, New Jersey. My parents were assiduously apolitical. But I got caught up, as millions of other kids did, in the ripples of the counterculture of the time, which was the beat culture. So in high school I read The Village Voice and The New Republic and listened to folk music. When I got to Columbia in September of '65, the most interesting people I met were kids who were organizing for Students for a Democratic Society, SDS. I just fell in love with these people. They were cool, and they became my crowd. I was always a bit of a loner. I never fit into high school culture. I was a bookworm, but I suddenly found a gang. A lot of them were red diaper babies who had lefty communist parents and had grown up organizing. They taught the rest of us how to organize. What I fell into for 3 years, from '65 to '68, was an organizing culture. How do we involve more people? What do we do to educate the campus, to get people to consider the problem of Vietnam and the problem of racism? And consider especially how they fit into it. That's what organizing is. It took time, and it took a lot of knocking on doors. Julius Lester, writer, SNCC member. I was a folk singer in those days. My early involvement in the movement was singing at fundraising rallies for SNCC and at hootenannies. And then in 1964 I went down to Mississippi for the Freedom Summer as a folk singer. It really wasn't until '66 that I got involved full-time in SNCC, and that was primarily working as a photographer. I worked for SNCC for 2 years, out of the SNCC office in Atlanta. One thing that has not been fully recognized is that the civil rights movement was a success. We've never observed that or celebrated that. The civil rights movement set out to end segregation in public accommodations and to ensure voting rights. The '64 Civil Rights Act, '65 Voting Rights Act, accomplished what the civil rights movement set out to do. But the experience of people inside SNCC was that getting rid of segregation in public accommodations and ensuring the right to vote were only manifestations of a problem. There was a deeper problem, and the deeper problem was racism. And how do you picket an attitude? How do you demonstrate against an attitude? And so it was recognized within SNCC that Black people lacked power to control their lives, and that having the vote was not going to give them the power they needed to control their lives. And so people started talking about power for Black people. Then in 1966, Stokely Carmichael, the new chairman of SNCC, turned that around and simply started saying Black power. The combination of the words black and power shocked the nation. I mean, white people went nuts. They just went nuts. Wesley Brown, Black Panther, draft resistor. I left the South at the end of the fall of '65, went back to college, kept ties with people in SN.